Greetings and salutations, guys. I'm here with my spoilery thoughts about Andor Season 2, Episodes 7 through 9, the third arc. That's so many numbers. Um, and so, yeah, gonna dig into this third arc as we get these 3 episodes a week. Again, full spoilers. All right, let's talk, because there's a lot to talk about here. I thought this was the strongest material so far this season. It was excellent. It was harrowing. I mean, seeing what happened on Ghorman, it was so it was great in the worst way, right? And that it was the storytelling, it was very impactful, and it was very upsetting, and it was the bad guys winning, because it was sort of this sadly inevitable thing happening. The Empire's plan worked like a charm. Their long con on Gorman, that was all leading up to a massacre of the people, it just played out, because we are in the thick of the Empire being unstoppable. Now we know the Rebel Alliance is gearing up against them. We know that they are not literally unstoppable. But right here, we're just seeing, everything come to fruition that they want to happen in sort of the worst way possible, or the best way, I guess, if you're Emperor Palpatine or Krennic at this moment. I don't know if I really connected with the Gorman Front characters deeply, as far as caring about them as characters, but it still felt awful to see them wiped out in the way they were. They were completely manipulated and used, and they were just cogs in a machine. They were just chess pieces who are ultimately just killed because that is the whims of the Emperor and Krennic. And, I feel like these 3 episodes really helped underline that we don't need to see Palpatine in this series. It could be great if we did. I feel like there could be a great single scene with him, maybe. But I actually kind of like that this really kind of recaptures the feeling of the original Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, one scene aside, of the Emperor has just this off-screen presence, this overwhelming presence, who just everyone is under his sway, either that they are doing what he's asking or they're fighting back against it, but he's the reason that everything's happening, and there's kind of more weight to him in a way because of that. And so, I think that this does a great job of recapturing that, down to the fact that we're going to get to Mon Mothma's speech that completely denounces him, and we don't need to see him in this show for that to still have an incredible impact. Do I have complaints about how this storyline worked as far as the time jumping is concerned throughout this season, and maybe some things were diminished in impact because of that, and kind of missing some information or being hastily told some information? Yes. I know that's kind of been the frequent refrain this season from me. I'm guessing maybe from some others. I felt it here a lot with Syril, who I think is a great character, and I really liked what happened with him in broad strokes. I thought it all was very interesting. This big question had been weighing on this season. What would happen if he found out the truth about what was really going on here on Ghorman, and what they ultimately want to do to these people? And when he found it out, would he push that? Would he mask it down? I think I speculated last week that I felt like maybe he would feel it, but maybe he would act like he didn't. Like he would still go along with what Miro was doing, because that's the only thing he feels he can do. I really like seeing that. No, I mean, this hurt him. This upset him. He felt for these people. But it just happened so quickly. It's like we jumped in. It felt like the Ghorman Front had already figured out that he'd played them in, again, sort of these unseen episodes, unmade episodes. And then he's finding out the truth for sure, and he's confronting Miro, and he's choking her, and it's all very dramatic. But it happens within like minutes almost, because then he goes outside, the massacre's already begun, and I really like, again, I think it works for the character a lot that he would be devastated by the truth, and yet his devotion to Miro is such that even though he had just choked her himself, when he sees Cassian's going to kill her, nope, he kind of snaps and does try to fight to save her. I think that all tracks with the character. I just feel like it could have been so much more impactful if this happened over 2 or 3 episodes instead of really within 1 episode, the weight of all of this for Syril and what happened. But again, I do think, it makes sense for the character. That final fight was great with him and Cassie, and I kind of like the idea that obviously Syril can't take Cassie and Andor in a fight, but he's just kind of fighting out of rage. And I do understand that he's kind of fueled not just by his love of Miro, but by his hate of Miro at that moment too. Like he's so messed up at that moment, so it makes sense that he is out of control in a way we've never seen Syril act before. And then as that darkly funny moment of being asked by Cassian moments before he's going to die, "Who are you?" And the idea that everyone's they're all part of this show we're watching. They're all important characters on the show, but their significance to each other is very different. And so Syril has been, in his orbit, and Cassian's been in his, and Cassian just, yeah, he doesn't know who this dude is. Even though we know that they've been in the same vicinity multiple times. So Syril, sort of dies as this tragic character. I think that all is very appropriate. And ultimately, yes, I still think the story of Cyril is a strong one. I just wish we had a little more time with how his final. I want to say few days, but it's not. It's like his final day should have been a few days. It should have been maybe a few weeks. Um, I loved the ninth episode. It's the one I wish the most this season. I'm usually a one episode a week is great guy. I've understood this season and the way it's arced. It mostly works to put them together, but I actually felt like episode 9 should have aired a different week than episode 8. Yes, they flow into each other as far as what Mon Mothma decides to do is directly because of what happened in episode 8, but episode 8 ends on such a heavy moment with this massacre and the loss of these people. I felt like I wish we could have just sat with that. But episode 9 is fantastic. And I feel like a lot of what makes it manage to work is such a mixture of things that Andor does well, because it's this tense sort of heist story almost. The heist being, how do we get Mon Mothma out of here? But it's also, of course, about Mon Mothma and the speech she's going to give and the importance of this speech and the themes to the show that she's going to talk about in that speech. So I really like that mixing of it. She's nervous, she's practicing her speech. At the same time, they're like, they will kill her. The Empire is going to grab her the moment she finishes that speech, and seeing that all play out and all the different elements and the different teams, and the fact that one of the people that's supposed to help her is really a mole for the Empire. That was all great, and Cassian being in the mix of that. The fact that he and Mon Mothma get to meet. We talk about these characters who have been in their own stories, so it's funny that, hey, finally. The two sort of main hero figures on this show and get to meet in the with 3 episodes left to go on the series. And then, of course, her speech. I feel like this speech would always work and work insanely well, as far as like the power of it and what she's speaking about and things that are always going to be important. I don't want to belabor how frighteningly and sadly topical Andor feels as it's airing when it is, and yet Mon Mothma's speech, it always would have packed a punch, but man, it packs a hell of a punch when you're watching it sitting in America in 2025. The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. I think that was the line that really stuck out to me. The whole thing was great, and so wonderfully delivered by Genevieve O'Reilly. But yeah, that line about the fact that everyone's buying in to the lies of the Empire, and distortion of truth and accepting of lies. I don't know. Yeah, it's been an interesting watching all of this, but yeah, that was extremely well done. Really a sort of stellar moment of the series that I wish didn't resonate as much as it does. Flipping back to my geeky Star Wars brain, fanboy brain, I really loved how this episode acted as both a direct lead-in and sort of a parallel story to an episode of Star Wars Rebels from several years ago, which involved the story of how Mon Mothma was sort of gotten away after she got off Coruscant, sort of continuing to get her to freedom. And the next speech she gave, which is referenced at the end of the episode when Cassian's told there's going to be another speech, and he said, I've already heard her speech. I rewatched that episode right after. It's if you've never seen it or if you want to rewatch it, it's season 3 of Rebels. It's Secret Cargo was the name of the episode, and it's really fun to rewatch it right after because it just kind of really flows into it. Even though Rebels is obviously tonally not just animated, but tonally feels so different from Andor, and yet they do work pretty well. Has this sort of two sides of the same coin, and there's some interesting things in that Rebels episode as far as character situations that were mentioned that they made sure to include on Andor that made it kind of extra cool to watch it now again and have it completely reframed. Cassian has his big speech to Bix near the end of episode 9 about it's time for him to leave. All he cares about is them having a happy life together. And that's when I thought, oh God, Bix is going to die now, right? Bix is going to die. They're going to leave and they're going to have a couple of happy moments together. And then she gets killed. And that's what makes him go back to the rebels and be the hardened, completely cold guy that we meet at the beginning of Rogue One. That being said, I was very relieved when it turns out that's not how it played out. Instead, Bix decided to leave herself, feeling like, I can't take you out of this fight. You're too important to this fight. You should stay in this fight. It now, of course, feels like, unless they want to do a horrible weave and Bix does come back into play and does get killed, I feel like she'll stay away. I hope we see her in the final 3 episodes, but I'm guessing if we do, it'll be briefly. And now it's this tragedy of, like, we know they're not going to reunite. He is going to die a year from now. And so we know that this is the end of their relationship, most likely. Again, these time jumps mean a lot could happen, but I think that probably is the end of their relationship. And though I wish Bix got a little more to do here, as far as feeling like this is probably it for the season, and she wasn't a big part of this storyline either, I'd rather know that she's out there potentially going on to have a happy life, even if there's sadness because it won't be with Cassian, than have a character that went through so much hell. I feel like it'd be cruel to kill her at this point. So hopefully this means she is going on to survive. We got K2SO introduced here. Felt a little strange just because it required kind of a big shift in the middle of so much heavy stuff to be like, oh, here's K2SO. We love K2SO. I love him. I think he's so great. I love Rogue One. I love that character. So I'm happy to see him back in play. And I did like how before that, his introduction, of course, is he's part of the freaking massacre of the Ghormans. And they continued what we'd established in those flashbacks on The Mandalorian to the Siege of Mandalore, which is the KX droids are very much the Terminators of Star Wars. And everything about how they operate and how unstoppable they are, very effective. I mean, I know on that, it was very quick on Mandalorian when we saw them, and they were just kind of walking in slow-mo shooting, very, very Terminator. Here, they weren't holding weapons, but just the way they pick people, throw them, and break them, smash them without a care. It does add an interesting layer to K2SO, who is, funny and sarcastic and lovable, but now we can be like, oh, you once would just kill innocent people, because that's what you were designed to do. Lingering thoughts, because there's a lot. I feel like these videos go really long, but there's 3 episodes of a show that gives us a lot. Gives us a lot, and maybe the season gives us even more, sometimes too much, because they're trying to pack so much in to these arcs. Very surprised by Willman, or Will, as they often call him, only because they kept weaving with him. I thought he was going to go native with Saw Gerrera. I thought that was the path for that character, was like becoming that sort of extremist. Instead, he was back working with Cassian and Luthen, although Luthen's a different, not quite as far gone as Saw maybe, but he's his own sort of level of extremist. But then he kind of goes native again because he falls in love with one of the resistance on Ghorman, and I thought for sure when he stays behind to find her, I'm like, well, that's the end of him. He will be another loss along the way. So I was surprised that the 2 of them made it off. The 2 of them survived. I guess Woman, that guy has 9 lives. I really like what we're seeing here about Luthen. It's been a runner all season, but his methods and his approach and how they're just not fitting in anymore as the Rebel Alliance is coalescing and gaining more people. He's still off doing his spy thing. He's still off ordering assassinations. I mean, it was interesting that Cassian was sent back to Ghorman to assassinate Miro, but it's not really the way that the Yavin Giant Rebel Alliance, or getting Giant Rebel Alliance, is working. And they want to just be much more of a straightforward sort of military group, and it's just that's not the path for him. That's not how he operates. And I really like sort of seeing this division with him and Mon Mothma, and her feeling so angered and upset, learning that he had a spy working. He was helping Mon Mothma, this spy, but ultimately he's answering Luthen, and what that says about just a guy who just is that paranoid, has that level of like distrust in anything except for just it. He and Mon Mothma are so interesting because they want the same goal, right? They want to take down the Empire, but they're just seeing that they probably can't keep working together just because of the different ways they're going. And now, this is when Mon Mothma is going to Yavin to really kind of take control, as we know she's going to like really, be one of the central leaders of the Rebel Alliance. And when Luthen, he doesn't feel like he'll belong on Yavin, and everything we're seeing, he's right about that. He wouldn't. So yeah, I'm curious about how that's a character I do assume is gonna die in the final 3 episodes. Is he gonna be a blaze of glory thing? Maybe is the dark twist he won't die. He's so sure he is going to, but he kind of can never sort of live amongst them. I don't know. I do want to see what happens with Luthen, because he's such a great character, and I think this season has really kind of done a great spotlight on, yeah, the greater good idea. This was obviously established in season one, but someone who's working so hard for the greater good, but has really sort of discarded everything. His speech in the first season about that made such an impact, and now how it's like, as they're getting, it's not like the end is in sight. We know they have to go through a whole trilogy of movies to get there, but as at least there's more hope. Uh, I'll get back to that word in a second. Yeah, it feels like he doesn't have his place in this way. Oh yeah, that I forgot to mention that the rebellions are built on hope. That was a little cheesy. As someone who defends Rogue One using the word hope a lot, that felt a little bit of the over-explaining prequel thing, right? It's like, well, Cassian said that line, but he heard someone else say it. I didn't need that. I didn't think it would be funny now if we keep going back. Who said it to the hotel guy? And we just keep going back in time to the person who kept saying, we go back to the High Republic. There was someone said it centuries before. Benjamin Bratt, I thought he did a great job as Bail Organa here. He had that one little cameo, but here we really got to see him fully play the character. I thought he did a very good job of evoking the same sort of vibe Jimmy Smits brings to the character. I felt like, yeah, that feels like Bail Organa. So yeah, I still am bummed it's not Jimmy Smits. It's just, I can't help it, just knowing that it was just this sort of stupid scheduling thing that a few months later wouldn't have been an issue probably. So it'll bug me, but yeah, Benjamin Bratt did great. And as a huge Rogue One fan, I've already mentioned I'm a huge Rogue One fan, but it was great to see Draven and Melshi back, sort of peripheral characters from that film. I know Melshi was in season 1 of Andor as well, but this is when I need to wonder. There's only 3 episodes left of this show. Will we see my favorite peripheral character from Rogue One? That's right. I'm talking about Anton Merrick, aka Blue Leader, because that guy rules. Now I just have a funny thing with Blue Leader in Rogue One. Maybe it's the mustache. I just dig him. I have a lot of toys of that character, but I do hope we see him. That'd be fun. All right, guys, those are my long rambling thoughts on this 3rd arc of season 2 of Andor. What did you think? What do you think of the season so far? What did you think of where the story went here? Are you having the same issues I am as far as the time jumps and feeling like we are missing some information, while still feeling this is a great freaking show that, yeah, definitely has a lot of power and weight to it still. All right, if you can like and you can subscribe, that would be wonderful. See you next time.